Hey there, I'm Linda. I'm 22 and about to graduate from college. Exciting times, right? Well, let me tell you, getting here wasn't exactly smooth sailing. My mom, Sandra, had a unique parenting style. Darling, you simply must wear the Gucci dress to your graduation dinner. It costs a fortune, and everyone will be watching, she'd say. That was my mom, always focused on appearances. Me? I was happiest in jeans and a t-shirt, but arguing with her was like talking to a brick wall. Mom, I want to wear something casual. It's not a red carpet event. I protest. Nonsense. You're my daughter, and you'll dress appropriately. End of discussion. Yep, that's how our conversations usually went. But thank God for my dad, Michael. He was my rock, always in my corner. Princess, wear whatever makes you comfortable. It's your day, after all, he'd say with a wink when Mom wasn't looking. He made everything bearable. Even though he ran a successful business, he never let it go to his head, unlike Mom. Then, there were my lifelines outside the house. My best friend, Zoe, and my boyfriend, Travis. Girl, you're going to crush that valedictorian speech. Zoe squealed over the phone. Thanks, Z. I'm nervous, but excited too. You've got this, babe, Travis reassured me later that day. As graduation got closer, things at home started to feel off. Mom and Dad were having these hushed arguments when they thought I couldn't hear. Sandra, we need to tell her. It's not right to keep this from her any longer, Dad would say. Absolutely not, Michael. You promised we'd never speak of it. Don't you dare ruin this for me, Mom would snap back. I had no clue what they were talking about, but it left a knot in my stomach. Still, I tried to stay focused on my future. I had great job prospects lined up, and I was ready to start the next chapter of my life. Little did I know, everything was about to change. If I had known what was coming, I might have skipped graduation altogether. But life doesn't come with spoiler alerts, does it? So, there I was, thinking it was just another milestone, completely unaware that I was about to get the biggest shock of my life. Graduation day. I woke up feeling like I was on top of the world. This was it, the culmination of all my hard work. I could barely eat. My stomach was doing somersaults. Linda, sit up straight and eat. You'll need your strength today, Mom said, her voice as sharp as ever. Dad smiled warmly. You're going to do great, sweetheart. We're so proud of you. The drive to the ceremony was tense. Mom fussed over my hair, my gown, everything. Dad was unusually quiet, and I figured they were just as anxious as I was. As I took my place on stage, I scanned the crowd. There were my parents, Zoe and Travis, all beaming. I took a deep breath and started my speech. Fellow graduates, esteemed faculty, family, and friends, today marks not just the end of our academic journey, but the beginning of our future. We've persevered through late nights, tough exams, and countless challenges. But we didn't do it alone. Our families have been our backbone, our support system. I grew more confident with every word. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. I felt invincible. But then I noticed movement in the audience. My mom was standing up. Weird? I thought maybe she was just emotional. But then she spoke, her voice ringing through the auditorium. I have an announcement to make, she said. I froze. Linda is not my daughter. She's not even Michael's daughter. She's adopted. The world stopped. I couldn't breathe. Was this some kind of sick joke? Gasps echoed through the auditorium as I stood there, frozen. I looked at my dad, praying for confusion or denial on his face, anything to prove this wasn't real. But all I saw was guilt, heavy and raw. I ran. I don't remember leaving the stage or pushing through the crowd. My legs just carried me until I found myself in an empty classroom, gasping for air. The door creaked open, and there stood Sandra, her face an emotionless mask. Why? I choked out. Why now? Why like this? She shrugged, her indifference chilling. You needed to know the truth. You're not ours. You never were. How could you do this to me on my graduation day? Oh, please, don't be so dramatic. It's not like it changes anything. You're still you, she replied with a dismissive wave. But it did change everything. My whole life suddenly felt like a lie. The door burst open again. Dad rushed in, his face etched with worry. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. This isn't how we wanted you to find out. We spat. You knew too. This whole time. He nodded, tears filling his eyes. We adopted you when you were a baby. Your birth mother. She passed away shortly after you were born. We always meant to tell you, but But what? You thought lying to me for 22 years was better? I couldn't keep the venom out of my voice. Sandra scoffed, crossing her arms. Oh, stop being so self-righteous. We gave you everything. A good home, education, opportunities. I stared at her in disbelief. Get out, I whispered. Both of you, just get out. They left, Sandra's heels clicking against the floor, while Dad looked back, his face twisted with pain. My phone buzzed again and again. Probably Zoe and Travis trying to reach me. But I couldn't face anyone right now. How could they do this? How could they let me live a lie my entire life? And Sandra, no, not Mom anymore. How could she be so cruel as to announce it in front of everyone? I don't know how long I sat there, my mind spinning, the foundations of everything I thought I knew crumbling. Eventually, I knew I couldn't hide in that classroom forever. But I couldn't face the crowd either. So I did the only thing I could think of. I slipped out the back and called an Uber. As the campus disappeared behind me, it felt like I was leaving more than just a building. I was leaving behind the person I thought I was. Now, I had to figure out who I really am. For the next few days, I holed up in my apartment, ignoring calls and messages. Eventually, Zoe and Travis wore me down. They showed up with pizza and refused to leave until I talked. Their support gave me the strength I didn't know I had. I realized it was time to uncover the truth about my past. We started by searching through my parents' house when they weren't around. In a locked drawer in Dad's study, we found it, a manila envelope. Guys, I think this is it, I whispered, my hands trembling as I opened it. Inside were adoption papers, birth certificates, and letters. My birth mother's name was Elena. She was young, single, and died from complications shortly after I was born. As we were leaving, Zoe's phone buzzed. That's weird. Olivia, Sandra's friend, is asking to meet you urgently. Says it's important. I hesitated but eventually agreed to meet her at a nearby coffee shop. Olivia looked anxious as she sat down. Linda, I'm so sorry about what happened at your graduation, but there's something you need to know about Sandra. My heart raced. What about her? Olivia leaned in, lowering her voice. I overheard her talking on the phone last week. She's planning something terrible. What do you mean? She wants to get rid of your dad, Linda. I think she might hurt him. I felt a wave of nausea. That's a serious accusation, Olivia. Do you have any proof? She nodded and pulled out her phone. I recorded some of her conversations. I held my breath as she hit play. Sandra's voice came through, cold and calculating. Once Michael's out of the picture, all his assets will be mine. That brat hand won't see a penny. I just need to make it look like an accident. I almost dropped the phone. My hands were shaking so badly. There's more, Olivia said, her voice trembling. She's been talking to some shady people, planning something big. I stared at her, my mind reeling. Why are you telling me this? Because it's wrong, and you don't deserve this. That night, I sat down with Travis and Zoe, my heart pounding as I told them everything. We spent hours trying to figure out how to expose Sandra without putting my dad in danger. Finally, we had a plan. It was risky, but it was our best shot. The next day, I walked into Sandra's study, my hands trembling, but my voice steady. We need to talk. She looked up, irritated. What is it now? Sandra, I know everything. About your plans for Dad, the money, all of it. Her face went pale, then twisted with anger. You don't know anything, you stupid girl. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Her eyes widened in shock. Where did you get that? She hissed. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's over. You're not going to hurt my dad or anyone else ever again. Just then, Dad walked in, confusion etched across his face. What's going on here? I took a deep breath and played the recording again. Dad's face crumpled as he listened, disbelief giving way to horror. Sandra, how could you? He asked, his voice breaking. She tried to deny it, tried to explain it away, but the evidence was undeniable. Shortly after, Dad's lawyer arrived, and things moved quickly from there. Within a week, we had a family meeting. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and close friends gathered as Dad explained everything, the adoption, Sandra's betrayal, all of it. The room erupted in shock and outrage. Sandra stood in the corner, her face a mask of defiance, but I could see the fear in her eyes. I want a divorce, Dad announced, his voice steady. And I'm removing Sandra from my will, effective immediately. In the days that followed, news spread quickly. Sandra's friends stopped calling. She was uninvited from social events, and her carefully curated world began to crumble. As for Dad and me, we started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, but for the first time, it felt real. I'm so sorry, Han, Dad said one evening. For everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. I'm getting there, Dad, I replied softly. We both are. A year passed, and life changed in ways I never could have imagined. I threw myself into my new job, excelling beyond my wildest dreams. Travis and I were still going strong, and Zoe remained my rock. One day, I overheard some colleagues gossiping. Did you hear about that woman, Sandra? The one who tried to kill her husband for his money? Apparently, she can't show her face anywhere in town anymore. I felt a twinge of something, not quite pity, but a sad sort of understanding. Sandra had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. That night, as Travis and I walked home, I found myself smiling. What's got you so happy? He asked. I looked up at the stars. Just grateful, I guess. For you, for Zoe, for Dad. For the truth. As painful as it was, I finally know who I am and where I came from, and I know who my real family is. He squeezed my hand. We chose you right back. As we walked on, I felt light, free. The past year had been the hardest of my life, but I had survived. More than that, I had thrived. Whatever came next, I knew I could handle it. Because now, I was truly me. The story has ended. What would you do if you discovered a loved one plotting against your family? How far would you go to protect those you care about? Share your thoughts in the comments below.